I have to be honest with you about something. For the first 6 years of my traveling life, I treated Malaysia like a connection flight. Not a destination. A gateway. You land in KL, you grab food for a few hours, maybe you walk the Petronas Towers at night, and then you fly out to wherever you actually plan to go: Bali, Bangkok, Singapore. Malaysia was the country I passed through on the way to somewhere better. And I was completely, embarrassingly wrong. I know what you're thinking right now. You're thinking Malaysia is fine. It's not Tokyo. It's not as exotic as Bali. It's not as polished as Singapore. And that is exactly what I thought. That's exactly the assumption that 7 countries of travel built in me, and then Malaysia dismantled in 7 days. Before I get into it, here's why you should trust anything I'm about to say. I've spent real time in Japan, the efficiency, the precision, the cultural weight of it. I've been to Singapore, which runs like a machine that never breaks down. I've done Thailand 3 times: the chaos, the temples, the food that makes you want to cry. Vietnam, Indonesia, India, South Korea. 7 countries. 7 different answers to the question, what does a great country feel like? And then I went to Malaysia. And for the first time in 7 countries, I didn't just feel like I was visiting somewhere good. I felt like I'd been lied to about how good this place was. Here's what no one prepared me for. Number 7. What does a country that punches above its weight actually look like from the inside? Not from a guidebook. From the ground. From the moment you land. I'll tell you what it looks like. It looks like a train. I met Ahmad at a networking event in Kuala Lumpur. German aerospace engineer, Dusseldorf born, relocated to KL on a 2-year contract, fully expecting to manage around a developing world commute. His words, not mine. The kind of infrastructure tolerance you pack alongside your malaria tablets. He took the KLIA Express into the city his first morning. Smooth, clean, air-conditioned, on time to the minute, 45 minutes from airport to city center. He called his colleagues back in Frankfurt that evening. The train, he told them, was better than anything they used at home. They didn't believe him. Kuala has been ranked in the Skytrax Global Top 10. It is one of only 2 Southeast Asian airports on that list. I've transited through Heathrow, JFK, Charles de Gaulle. I'm not making a provocative comparison when I say the gap is not flattering to the West. Japan has world-class rail, but it comes wrapped in a cost of living that drives its own citizens into financial ruin. Singapore runs perfect infrastructure, but it is a city-state, not a country, and perfection at that scale is a different challenge entirely. Malaysia built airport-to-city connectivity that rivals both. And it did it for a country the size of a real nation, with real geographic complexity. But infrastructure tells you what a place can afford. It doesn't tell you how a place feels. What I found next isn't on any travel map. And it completely rewired how I think about what culture actually means. Number 6. Most countries sell you one culture. One identity. One national story, simplified, packaged, marketable. Malaysia sells you 3, and somehow, impossibly, none of them cancel each other out. I want you to imagine standing at a street corner in Georgetown, Penang. Behind you, a mosque. To your left, a Chinese temple with incense smoke curling out the entrance. Ahead, a Tamil grocery with Hindi film music playing from a phone propped against a crate of mangoes. And over all of it, the smell of roti canai frying on a tawa at 7 a.m. That's not a curated experience. That's a Tuesday. I spoke to Priya, a second-generation Indian Malaysian who grew up in Penang and now works in London as a UX designer. She told me she spoke 4 languages before age 10: Malay at school, Tamil at home, Hokkien with the neighbors next door, English in shops and commerce. When she moved to London for work, she assumed this was normal. That everyone grew up in this kind of layered, multi-code life. It took her colleagues 2 years to convince her it wasn't. I genuinely didn't know it was unusual, she told me. I just thought that's what being from somewhere means. Ethnologue documents 137 living languages spoken in Malaysia. That is more linguistic diversity than the entire continent of Western Europe. India is diverse but divided, often violently, along the lines of that diversity. Singapore manages its multiculturalism through policy, through careful engineering, through a kind of social contract that works but feels deliberate. Malaysia's multiculturalism is older, messier, louder, and in many ways more honest. It evolved across centuries of trade routes, colonial layering, and the very unglamorous, unscripted process of people having to figure out how to live together. That's not a tourism pitch. That's history working itself out in real time. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. Because what I'm about to tell you about the food is going to sound like every other travel video. Until I tell you the part that isn't. Number 5. The best meal I had across 7 countries cost me $1.40. I ate it standing up. It was midnight. There was no menu. A man in a singlet was working a wok over fire that looked like it could melt the road beneath him, and the char kway teow he pushed across the counter to me was one of the most complete sensory experiences of my life. The smoke, the soy, the heat coming off the plate, the texture of flat rice noodles that had been touched by something close to genius. James is a food critic from Melbourne. He'd written about Southeast Asian cuisine for 15 years and had, he admitted to me, filed Malaysia under accessible regional street food in his mental taxonomy. Nothing more. Then he went to Penang specifically to research Nyonya Laksa, the dish that emerged from the Peranakan culture, the community born from centuries of intermarriage between Chinese traders and Malay locals. He spent 2 weeks tracing the dish. The spice trade routes that shaped the ingredients. The matrilineal kitchen culture that preserved the recipes. The specific moment in colonial history when Portuguese, Dutch, and British influence folded into the flavor profile. I thought I was going to write a piece about a soup, he told me. I ended up writing about 400 years of a civilization's memory, and the soup was how I got there, UNESCO agreed. Malaysia's hawker culture is inscribed on the Intangible Cultural Heritage List. And unlike some UNESCO designations that feel like a plaque on something dying, Malaysia's hawker scene is alive, fed primarily by locals, not tourists, priced for the people who live there, not the people visiting. Thailand's street food is world famous. It's also, increasingly, a performance. Vietnam is deeply authentic, but what you eat in Hanoi is almost a different cuisine to what you find in Ho Chi Minh. Malaysia's food culture is a coherent living tradition with 400 years of receipts. But here's what bothered me. You're probably thinking, food, culture, infrastructure. Every travel video says this. So why didn't anyone tell me the economic story? Because that is where everything changes. Number 4. Malaysia has one of the highest rates of sustained upward economic mobility in Asia over the past 60 years. Almost no one in the Western conversation about global development talks about it. When the Petronas Twin Towers were completed in 1998, they were the tallest buildings on Earth. Everyone reported the spectacle. Almost no one reported the statement. Malaysia was announcing to the World Bank, to the IMF, to every former colonial power that had extracting rubber and tin from this land for a century that it was no longer waiting for permission. Farah is a Kuala Lumpur-born architect. She studied at UCL, finished her degree, and made the decision that surprised everyone around her. She moved back. Not for family reasons. Not because London didn't want her. Because Malaysia did. The opportunities here feel real and unfinished, she told me. In London, everything is already built. Every system, every hierarchy, every ceiling. In KL, I'm designing buildings that will define what the city looks like in 30 years. That doesn't exist anywhere else for someone my age. South Korea's economic transformation from a war-destroyed nation to a global cultural and industrial powerhouse is the subject of documentaries, university courses, and international admiration. Malaysia made a parallel transformation from tin-mining British colony to upper-middle-income economy in a single human lifetime, and the global story has barely been told. The World Bank classifies Malaysia as an upper-middle-income economy. The IMF projects continued growth through the decade. The country is building a high-speed rail link to Singapore. It is positioning itself as a semiconductor hub, a regional tech center, a financial services destination. If you're watching this and you're Malaysian, or you love this country, and you are tired of seeing it treated as Asia's afterthought, subscribe right now. This channel exists to tell exactly these stories. The countries that do extraordinary things while the camera points somewhere else. Hit subscribe, hit the bell, and let's keep going. Because the economy is impressive. But what I found underneath it, the thing no tourism board will put in a brochure, that's what broke me open. Number 3. You can live in Kuala Lumpur like you're wealthy. For the price of being broke in London or Sydney. I'm not talking about budget travel compromises. I'm not talking about hostels and instant noodles. I'm talking about a full-cooked breakfast for under $1.50. A modern, furnished apartment in a desirable neighborhood for under $400 a month. A private healthcare consultation, not emergency, elective, quality private care for under $20. Marcus is a remote worker from Toronto. He came to KL for 3 months to test it, the way you test something you're 80% sure won't work out. He cancelled his Toronto lease 6 weeks in. I was saving 3,000 Canadian dollars a month, he told me, and I was eating better food, sleeping in a nicer place, and genuinely less stressed than I'd been in years. I thought I'd miss Canada. I missed the idea of Canada. The reality of it, the cost, the weather, the commute, I didn't miss at all. Bali is affordable, but it is now overrun and in many parts performing affordability for tourists while quietly raising prices. Vietnam is cheaper, but the infrastructure and consistency gap is real. Thailand, particularly Bangkok and Chiang Mai, was the definitive digital nomad destination for a decade. It is now priced up, saturated, and in some neighborhoods indistinguishable from a Western city with better weather. Kuala Lumpur offers Singapore-level modernity, connectivity, and safety at prices closer to Bangkok 5 years ago. Nothing else in Asia does this combination. But here's what started bothering me the longer I stayed. With all of this, the infrastructure, the culture, the food, the economic story, the value, why does the world still get Malaysia so wrong? And who is responsible for it? Because I have a theory. And I'm going to say the quiet part out loud. Number 2. Here's what I want you to notice. The next time you read a Western travel piece about Malaysia, if you ever do, because they're rare, notice the language. A country with potential, an emerging destination, Southeast Asia's hidden gem, hidden gem. A country of 33 million people with a colonial history stretching back to the 1400s, a recorded culture going back further, and a modern economy that has been consistently outperforming is called a hidden gem. That framing is not an accident. Travel media needs a hierarchy. It needs a Tier 1 Tokyo, Singapore, Paris that justifies the premium flight, the luxury hotel, the aspirational content. It needs a Tier 2 that exists to make Tier 1 look worth the price. Malaysia lives in Tier 2. The almost as good. The budget alternative. The if you can't afford Singapore. That framing keeps the clicks flowing to the premium destinations. And it costs Malaysia the story it has actually earned. Here's what that framing erases. Kuala Lumpur's airport, operating at full scale for a real country, competes with Changi for global rankings, while Western hub airports still manage to lose luggage in the 21st century. Malaysia's healthcare system has been ranked by independent analysis above most European nations in efficiency and access. And when Malaysia decided it needed a new administrative capital, It built Putrajaya, a purpose-designed federal city from empty land in under a decade. Name one Western democracy that has done that in living memory. I'll wait. Malaysia is not a country with potential. A country with potential is still becoming something. Malaysia is a country whose story hasn't been told yet. Those are different things. Potential means the work is ahead. Untold means the work is done and the camera is pointing somewhere else. The people who live there know. The expats who found it know. The food historians know. The economists who study Southeast Asia know. And now you know. But even that isn't the reason Malaysia topped my list. The real number one, the thing I struggled to put into words, comes next. And I almost left it off because I wasn't sure I could explain it without it sounding like sentiment. But I'm going to try. Number 1. I don't know how to rank this. I don't have a statistic for it. After a week in Singapore, which is extraordinary, I want to be clear about that. Singapore is a miracle of urban organization. I flew back into Kuala Lumpur for my last 2 nights. And I remember the moment we broke through the clouds and I could see the city below. I remember the feeling. Not excitement. Not tourist energy. Something closer to relief. Like the city was exhaling. Like it was built for the people inside it rather than for the idea of itself. Elena is 67. She's a retired professor from Barcelona who has been to 40 countries. She visited Malaysia for the first time at 66, just to see it once. She told me. She extended her stay. Then extended it again. 4 times. She told me, I've been to 40 countries. Wonderful places, all of them in their own way. This is the only one I've ever left and immediately thought, I should have come here 20 years ago. What did I do with all that time? I keep coming back to that. What did I do with all that time? Every country I visited before Malaysia gave me an experience. Japan gave me precision and beauty and a kind of cultural awe I didn't know I was capable of. Singapore gave me competence on a scale that felt almost supernatural. Thailand gave me warmth and chaos and food that made me reconsider what pleasure was. But Malaysia gave me something none of them did. It gave me a recalibration. It made me sit down at a hawker table, 10 p.m., fan overhead, char siu on rice in front of me and genuinely rethink what I thought I knew about Asia, about development, about culture, about what a country is allowed to be when no one is paying close attention. This country does not need a YouTube video to validate it. The people who live here aren't waiting for the world to catch up. But they deserve the story to be told correctly. Not as a consolation prize. Not as the affordable alternative. As exactly what it is, one of the most complete, complex, and genuinely surprising places on the planet and one of the last in Asia where you can still arrive without knowing what to expect. That's rare. Rarer than any Instagram ranking or travel list will ever capture. Subscribe if Hidden Realms is where you want to get the real picture of the world. Not the curated one. The true one. Now I want to know where you stand. Is Malaysia the most underrated country in Asia, or do you think Japan, Singapore, or somewhere else still has the edge? Drop your answer in the comments below. I read every single one. And I genuinely want to have this argument with you.